down a bad avenue, right? I started smoking weed all day, every day. I was drinking every day. I had spiraled. Laziness is a disease. It's a dis-ease.
Yeah.
Get comfortable in here with challenge. If you don't embrace this, you will not be here to embrace anything. Real estate's a sport. It's a team sport. Like, you are not going to run far on your own.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Adam Devine with Purch Rock, and Adam flew in from Hamden, Connecticut to talk about how his team is doing novations virtually in multiple states. A challenge, if I've seen one. So guys, I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. The information on the show alone is enough to help you become a millionaire in the next 5 to 7 years. If you'll take consistent action, you will become one. And guys, if you get value out of the show, please hit that subscribe button. That way we can all grow together. You ready?
Let's rock and roll.
All right, let's go. So first question is, what was your life like right before you got into real estate?
Great question. So prior to real estate, I was playing hockey, played junior hockey for several years, had a career-ending concussion right before going off to playing college.
You had a what?
Career-ending concussion.
Career-ending concussion.
So I had about 8-9 concussions total while playing.
Wow.
So I went through, and we'll get into that. I went through a bit of a time. So when I finished up playing hockey, I was going to go off to college and play. Told I would never play hockey again. So I finished up my degree at home, doing a lot of stuff online, just to get the degree, right? Parents really pushed for it. I personally think it was a total waste of time, but it is what it is.
I don't disagree strongly on this one.
I'm working a bunch of side jobs and just little part-time gigs to make some money, but I'm really interested in real estate. I start following a guy named, I don't know if you know, Nick Ruiz.
Yeah.
So I follow
Alpha something. He wrote a book, right?
Yep, Flip. So I buy the book. I sign up for his program. This is back in 2015.
Okay.
I sign up. I start going through it. I'm like, you can buy homes without any cash out of your pocket. This sounds way too good to be true. And I start going into it. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I can do this. This is great.
Right.
So fast forward, I finish up school, my degree in 2016, and I end up getting a job selling medical devices. I do it for about 5 months before I get fired.
For what?
The owner knew that I was doing real estate and not going to surgeries or showing up late, and it was a pretty easy fire, and it was great because it just wasn't for me.
Sure.
But I did that for about 5 months, and I was also doing real estate. So I'm on the side, like, figuring out how do I use this money from my job to get deals and then get out of doing this.
Right.
So I did a good job, though, of having a little of a nest egg when I did get fired. But getting going, I'm locking up contracts. I'm going through, back in the day when you were using Craigslist to either acquire a deal or sell and market your deals, Facebook, it was much different then. I had a couple deals, and I'm falling on my face. So during that time, I'm working my job in medical device sales while I'm doing real estate. And I realized once I got fired, that was it. Went all in and ended up working with who my business partner is now today.
So talk to me about your first deal. How did you find your first deal?
My first deal was found through Craigslist. So I used to post bait ads on there. And I would also...
Beta ads?
Bait ads.
Bait ads.
So I would post ads for, building your buyer's list. But I'd also post that, we buy houses cash on there. That was one of the channels. And I had an individual reach out to me. I was surprised. I was like, it's that one-off person. So they reach out to me on there. I go and look at the property and I contract it. I get the property under contract. I make, I think, $4,000 on the deal.
So your first deal was a success, though?
Yes. Wasn't much, but...
Right. But the first deal you contracted, you did sell.
Correct.
Well, that's a win, right? So were there any challenges?
Oh, of course. I mean, you're going through the pitfalls of, dealing with attorneys, getting the right paperwork together. I mean, a lot of it's hand-holding, but again, being able to get to the finish line and just having the right people there, it definitely was nice.
What would have happened if you never found your first deal?
I don't know, I would have kept going. I would have figured it out. It's like anything else, persistence is key.
Was that while you were still working medical, or was that before or after you got fired?
This is while I'm working medical.
This is while you're working medical sales. Gotcha. Okay, so you do your first deal, $4,000. What were you making in medical sales?
I was making $36,000 a year as a base, and then I never got any commissions, even though I was promised all this money. I wasn't there long enough, so I wasn't really making much money.
Gotcha. So that one deal is already more than what you make a month.
pretty much.
Gotcha. Okay. So what happens after your first deal?
After my first deal, I'm falling on my face.
Right.
So I'm still struggling to get stuff to the finish line.
What does falling on your face look like?
Everything under the sun of being a new investor, not even knowing the right questions to ask, what to do. You know, you're super motivated and hungry to go make money, but you don't know what foot to put in front of the other.
Right.
So I'm kind of, I call it standing on Pete's. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out as we go. One of the things that I've always been a big fan of is being a team player. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why don't I find someone that's doing this at a very high level? So, end of 2016, I'm refereeing a hockey game, right? And this coach is swearing at me, screaming, skating up and down the ice. I look over my shoulder and I'm like, who is that? I'm like, oh, that's Bob LaChance. Like, I had sent Bob a Facebook message back in like April, May when I finished up school. How are things at Fortune Builders? This is back when he was still involved. I'm looking to get into real estate. No response.
Freaking Bob.
Hey, exactly. So persistence is key.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me bite my tongue and get yelled at all game.
So Bob LaChance, you knew who he was before the hockey game.
Correct. I'd played men's league against Bob. Yeah, growing up and, when I was younger in junior hockey. So I knew who Bob was.
So from hockey, you knew who Bob was. So it wasn't from real estate, but from hockey, you knew who Bob was.
Correct. I actually had no idea he was involved in real estate until I looked him up and saw it.
Okay. So then you see this guy's like, okay, well, he's involved with Fortune Builders. Great. Let's leverage this connection. So you were aware of him, but you didn't really know him, I guess, at this point.
Correct.
When he was cursing you out.
Correct.
What was he cursing you out for?
It's just typical Bob in the hockey world. So
it's just everyone just cursing everyone out on the ice.
Well, when you're a referee, you're not liked by anybody, and then being in the Northeast, you have that New England mentality. People are gonna they're gonna give it to you very blunt.
Yeah. All right. So not concerned about your feelings.
No, not at all. What are feelings?
So he's cursing you out, and instead of responding, you see who he is. You what do you do then?
Bite my tongue because I'm thinking back on that Facebook message where he never replied.
Right.
And ultimately, I'm not worried about how I feel. It's what can I get from this?
Right.
Selfishly, I'm looking to advance my real estate career. There's a relationship here. Plus, we get much more with honey than vinegar. So
absolutely. So what'd you do after that?
Game goes on. They win like 12-1. I mean, they blow the other team out.
They're blowing the other team out, and he's cursing you the whole time.
Oh, where's the call, ref? That's an ice. Trip. I'm like, God, give it a break. But it is what it is. You sign up for it.
Right.
At the end of the game, everybody gets in line to shake hands. And usually the coaches will shake the referee's hands at the end of the game. Bob doesn't shake my hand. I'm not surprised. So I go to put the nets up against the boards when the Zamboni is coming on the ice, and I see him outside the locker room. So I'm like, do I go up to him? Do I mention I'm in real estate? I'm like, all right, let's do it. I put the nets up. I go off. I'm like, hey, coach. He goes, what? I'm like, hey, are you Bob LaChance from Fortune Builders? His face drops. He sticks his hand. Oh, hey, how are you doing?
So hockey Bob turned into professional Bob in an instant.
In a snap of a finger. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? My name's Adam Devine. I reached out actually months ago. I'm new to real estate. I got a couple deals, but I've been struggling. Just wanted to see if I could chat with you, see if we could partner or find a way to work together. Gives me his number, says, hey, give me a shout.
Right.
So I follow up with him. We set up a time, a week or two later to meet for coffee, and he starts talking about, what are you looking to get out of real estate? Why are you getting into it? And I went through all that, and then tells me he has a virtual assistant company. And at the time, like, I know nothing. Like, what virtual assistant? Like, cool.
Yeah.
He's like, we may be looking to hire a sales rep. Would you be interested?
Okay.
I'm like, sure. Okay. We meet a second time for coffee. He also makes an intro to a guy in my backyard in Southern Connecticut that ran a meetup group at the time and helped me with some other deals, trying to get some of these other deals to the finish line. Just again, answering questions, learning the industry. I meet back up with Bob and I say, yeah, I'm in. He's like, do you want the role to be a sales rep here at Riva? This is back when it was Investor Virtual Assistant Services. So this is prior to the branding change,
Gotcha.
Way back.
Okay.
I jump on board. I do it for a little over 2 years. End up being a sales manager, kind of overseeing things there, going to events. When he had his spinoff from a former business partner, I stayed on. Right,
Gotcha.
I learned a ton from Bob. The mentorship of having questions answers, from becoming a better sales rep, going through different types of training. So to me, I saw that I was getting better. It's
Mhm.
quantifiable.
Right.
But I had also wanted more for myself.
Yeah.
So funny enough, when I saw the opportunity right before my 27th birthday, I decided to ask Bob, uh, present him like a nice PowerPoint of what
Mhm.
I can bring for the company.
Yeah.
I asked for 50% ownership of that company, which 2 years ago, Bob had signed an LOI for a very high amount of money to sell to private equity,
Mhm.
which fell apart. But I'm asking for a company that's generating millions of dollars every
Mhm.
year, not knowing any better.
Yeah.
And it was an aggressive, you know, beeline right at Bob for
Mhm.
this. And Bob fired me that next day, which was my 27th birthday. It was never personal, but
Yeah.
I was fired.
Why were you fired?
Probably the way I delivered it and what he had went through,
Mhm.
from watching his company almost kind of blow up in flames to
Mhm.
salvaging it, watching him and his wife fly over to the Philippines to salvage it for 2 weeks,
Mhm.
um, and to get it to where it is today, not only growing it back to where it was, but surpassing that, say, 7, 8x.
Mhm.
It's pretty impressive. So
So
doing
was it you didn't necessarily deliver it in a diplomatic, tactful tone?
correct.
Got it. So if you had to do it all over again, your approach would be different.
Yeah, and knowing Bob, when you go to ask for money or some kind of
Mhm.
ownership, it's got to be done the right way. And I've
Yeah.
witnessed this with other people in our time.
All right.
We need to hire 9 salespeople in the next 5 weeks. We launched our Done For You sales service just a month ago, and the demand for it has been absolutely crazy. We have all these people reaching out to us saying our sales service has been so helpful for them. Please get us more salespeople.
If you are in high ticket sales or looking to get into that space, if you want a calendar filled up with people raising their hand saying, call me at this time, please sell me, I want to be sold to by a highly experienced salesperson, we are looking for you to have that role. We want to take people who are good and make them great. People who want to be held accountable the same way Michael Jordan would want his coach to hold him accountable, to take him to that next level.
So if you want Ian Ross or myself to train you to get better at sales, if you want to be able to control your income, decide exactly how much money you make, and you want to work at a company where you're valued and appreciated, we encourage you, click the link below. However, we're only hiring superstars. If you're not A+ caliber, don't click below.
So I mean, you and I obviously we know Bob pretty well. So what is the right way to approach Bob?
Make sure you're bringing value and you're
Mhm.
conscious of what you're asking for.
Gotcha.
It-
Okay. Anything else?
Well, it's funny because I never took it personal.
Mhm.
When he had fired me, I actually, and he's talked about this on the podcast, is I thanked him. I said, dude, I appreciate everything you've taught me. Thank you so much. I've learned a ton here. Wish you nothing but success.
Right.
And at the time, Beth had quit working her job in medical sales to help grow that, which they also have the medical division now, which is a very successful division. So I can understand them being like, hey, screw this kid.
Right.
You're out.
Yeah.
We're trying to salvage a company here. But I wrote him and Beth a letter,
Mhm.
saying, hey, thank you. I never meant any harm by this. My goal was genuinely to grow and just advance my professional career. And I wrote at the end of that letter,
Mhm.
I said, Bob, you and I will be business partners one day. Because we'd go to lunch every day. I got along well with him. It
Mhm.
was never personal, but it's business, right?
Yeah.
People make a decision. We have to just be mature enough to move on,
Mhm.
right? And we kept in, I talked to maybe Bob every other month, and gives me a call around like August of 2019, right before Labor Day.
Mhm.
What's going on, man? How's everything going? I'm like, good. Yeah, I'm wholesaling some properties. I'm doing listings. I'm getting more active. I just bought 2 rentals. So I'm like, I'm full-fledged going hard into, just making money and trying to grow my own success in the business.
Mhm.
Bob says I'm looking to get in grow a wholesaling company. I'm looking for someone to do acquisition. I said, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
He offered me some ridiculously low amount of money, but I'm like, I see a different avenue here.
Yeah.
We start doing deals, sending over leads every day, and he's not tracking them. When you're first starting out, everything's kind of all over the place.
For sure.
So fast forward that to January of 2020. I go to the office one day. I'd say, Bob, you gonna be around? I got something for you. He said, yeah, sure, I'll be around.
Mhm.
Go up to the office. I give him a check for about $7,500. He's like, what's this for? I'm like, this is for all the closings, listings, wholesale deals that we've closed. You're a partner on. He had no idea.
Mhm.
And he was very thankful for it, given his experience in this business. He's like, no one's done this. And
Yeah.
I think that's integrity. And I appreciate it. I told him, hey, I'm gonna be needing to ramp this up. There's a business model here. I don't know what that looks like, but we should map something out. We sat down, kind of went through what does that look like overhead, and started Purch Rock. We turned into a business.
So the 7,500 you gave him, this is from deals that you did that were his leads, or what was?
Correct. So what Bob was doing is he was sending over leads from his cold call company,
Mhm.
right? Deal dialers. Those
Yeah.
leads would come over to my email.
Mhm.
I would get on the phone and call them.
Right.
We used RealFlow at the time, which was a mess. It's not a really good scalable CRM. It's good for a newer investor, but everything was kind of just all over the place. I'd call the lead, I'd go on the appointment, I'd contract it, and then I would try to make money. Most of our deals were going retail because, again, when you're a newer investor, you're just trying to make money.
Right.
But we partnered on everything, and the goal is, hey, if we close a deal, then I'm going to give you 50% of it. I think that's fair.
Right.
And that's what we did. So he wasn't tracking that. He didn't know stuff had closed. And when I delivered the check and went through those deals, there's a level of trust and appreciation. And
Right.
I think in our industry, integrity is number one. If you're going to build relationships with people, then you better do it right.
Oh yeah, I mean, relationship is the most important thing inside our business. So this was, you said January 2020 is when you guys, he reached out to you in 19 and 20, you give him the check and like, there's something here. I want you to be involved in it.
Well, it's Bob, there's a business to this. Let's not do
Right.
one-off deals.
Got it.
You know,
Okay.
let's build out what this structure looks like to grow.
So then what will happen after that?
So we sat down, we mapped out what does the cost look like for a CRM, doing a build out, how many leads do we need to start sending over? Because he has the cold calling and the text messaging set up for the
Right.
VAs.
Mhm.
So we were already at an advantage there.
Yeah.
And then I can do everything between being a 27-year-old kid. I have the time, I have the availability, I'm all in.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get this thing ramped up. So he starts following over leads daily. We build out a podio and we just start trying to acquire deals, right?
How helpful was it that he had a virtual agency?
Oh, it's impeccable, like
Yeah.
massive 180. I mean, I think we were at a complete advantage, much bigger advantage than any other person getting going in it because, one, the partnership is good. Today we're still working together after what we've been through. So alignment of people, but two, when you have that marketing machine, people say all the time, right? What's more important, sales or marketing? I tell you, it's marketing.
Yeah.
As a salesperson, if you can't generate leads, good leads consistently and successfully, you're out of business.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be operating.
Right.
So we have that, but then to connect that to the execution of closing these deals, that's where you start to see the growth.
Absolutely.
So we were very privileged.
As far as integration goes, right? And I'm getting really, really technical here as far as your organization. But how much were you able to pull from the VA, the virtual agency, as far as resources goes to help you execute your business?
Getting going, it was predominantly the cold calling, text messaging.
Got it.
We didn't have a business in place or, I'll just put my humble hat on. Bob and I are not operational people, right? We're action takers. We're salespeople. So for us, it's like, oh, I could do this better than them. And I get it done quicker. So what do I need a VA for? We didn't really have anything on the admin side or the operation side.
Yeah.
It was strictly cold calling. It was text messaging. We had a VA build a website out. But that's really about it. We had made our first hire back in October of 2020. That was our first hire that we had brought on.
Yeah.
I was a salesperson.
Gotcha.
But like other than really the marketing side, we really just ran a business focused on how do we make money? Like right now, we can't worry about department heads and different verticals in our business. It's like, let's get cash coming in the door.
Right.
And we have capital to invest into those things. And that's how our brains work. Some people may think differently. Some people are operational assassins. For us, it was, we can generate money much quicker by working. Here's what we have to work with. Let's exploit it.
Okay. So you guys get rock and rolling. At this point, are you guys focused entirely in your backyard?
No. Today we are in Connecticut.
No, at this time.
Oh, yes.
Right,
At the
2020.
time, yeah, we were really just in major metros in Connecticut. We weren't even going into tertiary markets.
All right.
We played around where we knew we could make consistent, simplistic money. And again, the landscape of wholesale in Connecticut is very, it's very unique. It's not like many other cities and states where you can just go in and you can have a ton of players. I mean, you have very intelligent sellers. You have that New England Northeast aggressive mentality of
Mhm.
people. You have two attorneys on a transaction. What we didn't have at the time was all these wholesalers popping up because of stuff they saw online.
Mhm.
It was a very small space, and there was not many direct to seller marketers. So we knew that if we went into major metros, we could have that success to find the investor a
Right.
good deal.
So talk to me about the attitude, right, in Connecticut, because you guys are in Connecticut. We got clients in Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Philly. Different attitude. So how? Because you've been in multiple states. How is your approach different to a homeowner in the Northeast versus your approach to your homeowners in the South?
That's actually a really good question. So I don't know if it's much different per se. I mean, it's more so the approach
Mhm.
and how we're going at that deal. I mean, up north, we're definitely aggressive back and we're going to mirror that seller. If you're an order taker and you try to appease them, you're going to have a phone slammed in your face. You almost need to disrespect that seller to keep them on the phone because
Mhm.
now they're fired up and they want to go at you.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're creating stimulus so that they're
Mm.
not going to exit that phone call.
Right.
You go down south, it is a different approach. Sometimes we can put an accent. I'm like, hey, Chuck, what's going on, man? It's me. I'm giving you a call back. So I have to frame that conversation
Yeah.
to align with them. And if I don't have the accent, I have to slow down my communication.
Mhm.
One thing, though, is you can be far more direct at a seller in the South, where up north, it's almost like dating. If we're too quick to what it is we want,
Mhm.
it becomes a game. Like, oh, I'm not really looking to sell.
Mhm.
Oh, you're not looking to sell. Why'd you ask me to call you back? Oh, well, you called me. Well, you asked me to call you back. It's almost, you're like dating at this point.
Yeah.
It's like who's going to release their cards first.
Mhm.
Down south, it's a very nice, warm touch, and we call our Florida, Georgia, our Arkansas market. It's like you can have that black and white conversation. You can
Yeah.
build that rapport.
So we have there's a Tommy in Boston, right? Got to work with his team for a bit, and he has a guy in his organization, which I always laughed at was, he had an appointment where the guy was just completely rude and disrespectful, and he was like, "Look, you're obviously having a bad day. I'm having a bad day myself. Can we just get past this part and just have a conversation about the home?" The guy's like, "Yeah," and then they had a conversation about the guy's house. It's fascinating. Versus here, like you wouldn't start off a conversation this way. I wouldn't expect you to be aggressive from when I walk into your home.
Yeah, you'll have those from time to time, and it's funny. Like I know Tommy's guy up there, Jared.
Jared, yeah, it was Jared.
Jared gets it. Him and I actually had a phone conversation about a month ago
Mhm.
about the seller psychology and the type of human dynamic we
Mhm.
deal with up there, Connecticut, Massachusetts. I mean, you got to be a dog. Like,
Yeah.
This is not. Hi, this is Adam from Purch Rock. I'd love to talk. Like, click, click. So yeah, those guys get it up there, and they obviously run a good business. But
Right.
you can. It's same with Joe Terriel in New Hampshire. They
Mhm.
can. We can all relate to one another on what it is we're dealing with
Right.
for sellers.
So you start off cold calling and texting in 2020, right? Is that still your predominant marketing channel, or what are you guys doing today?
Yeah, it's still our predominant marketing channel because we're
Mhm.
doing everything it costs, right?
Right.
We're fortunate that we have Riva plugged in.
Mhm.
We can cold call and text on volume. Texting is obviously taking a massive shift in the landscape.
Oh yeah.
So we've had to adapt to that, but
Mhm.
it's still been a channel that's worthy enough of investing in.
Mhm.
We also run mail selective. We used to do a lot of mail back in the day, and the way this market's going, we may have to start doing more again. But
Mhm.
as of right now, our channels are making sense of doing cold call and text message. We did a little bit of PPL for a bit, and it was good. But when we look at our numbers, the amount of money that we're investing into cold call and text, and again, the privilege we have with
Mhm.
Riva, we've doubled down on that, and it's been good.
Gotcha. So the challenges that you had with texting, you say you had to pivot. How did you guys pivot?
You just become more compliant. I mean,
Mhm.
you saw what happened with launch control.
Right.
Launch changed up a lot of their messaging, and
Mhm.
you'd have to scrub for lists much better. DNCs, a lot of numbers were not getting sent out to, right? You
Mhm.
used to have maybe a 10 to 20% non-deliverable deliverable rate.
Mhm.
That rate sometimes is above 50%, depending on the list we're contacting. So you had to get strategic with, all right, where are we targeting? How are we scrubbing these lists? Obviously, we want to scrub for litigators. We're not looking to end up as an example. And then obviously using other platforms too. Smarter Contacts, another one that's been pretty good for us. But if I were to suggest that to the average person out there, or an operator that's having to go pay and not get the stuff at cost, then I would honestly recommend some other channels.
Gotcha. So being smarter with the data, who are you predominantly using right now for data?
We use our own data. Like we're pretty simple and basic. We've looked into several providers inside of CG, but we never moved forward with it after looking into the pros and cons and what we're doing. We pull everything out just simply from PropStream. We skip it through IDI, and then we hit those targets.
Gotcha. Okay, so at which point did it make sense to go into multiple states?
We went into multiple states solely for hedge funds. So again, we're a part of Collective Genius, which is a fantastic mastermind. We have two operators in there, Rich and Adam, and we had connected with them back in, I think it was Q2 of 2021.
It was something like that, yeah.
In Tampa when they had first got back in the group. Being New York guys, we were able to connect, just having that mentality. We saw them at IMN that August. And we followed up with them about doing some work together. And this isn't the time where like hedge funds are buying like wildfire. Like if you have a deal, they're buying it. If it's 110 to par, they're buying it. Like it's over market value, they're buying it. You're like, this is too good to be true.
Right.
We talked with them. They gave us their buy box. Immediately went after it. And week one, we had 3 contracts.
Nice.
We were almost to the point where we were getting a property a day. And we're all looking around the office like, we're going to get rich. This is great.
This is it.
So we start going into first Arkansas for them. And this is like August of 2021. They immediately tell us, let's test out this little market in Alabama. So we're going to Alabama. Then we're hitting parts of Charlotte outside of the city, Georgia. Now we're working for other funds. We went into Ohio. So we're doing stuff for the funds that are buying affordable housing. And it's like, wait a minute. These sellers are easier to deal with than up north, right? One of our newer reps got his success in our office and became what he is today based on that upfront momentum of getting 2 real big deals. And it's funny because we are doing virtual novation now. He pulls off the first virtual novation in our office where the seller's like, oh, the fund's not going to take it. But I talked to the seller. They're cool novating it. We're running a virtual novation in Arkansas.
Right.
Agent was on board with it, explained to the agent the process. Seller was cool with it. And we just saw a huge avenue of opportunity to say, like, there's money to be made outside of our backyard. And we don't need to go see this asset. We can make a phone call and acquire it.
So the ideal was to wholesale to the hedge funds. But if it didn't fit their box, then the second step is to novate the deal.
Correct. So we don't have a buyer's list, right, out of thin air going in these markets. We're betting on the funds.
Yeah.
And we're betting on our abilities to get the deals that they need at the price points that are acquirable. So if we can't, it's like, okay, how do we still make money off of this product? Well, there's the MLS. And we had started doing novation in 2020. When Brewer came out with Brewer Method, we signed up for it. Even though we were doing novation, we learned a lot from that course.
Right.
And it was, all right, if we can get 1 or 2 things, then it's worth it. And we've got far more from it. The network, the community. So we were able to apply all the things we're learning to become better now virtually in these other states.
Yeah.
So you see the amount of opportunity there. It's like, okay, this is an eyeball moment. We can go and make money virtually anywhere.
So that first deal that you guys did in novation, what were the challenges you faced in that one?
I recall it was a guy that we'd called on a Friday. I remember being in the office, contracted on a Saturday. I think it was just a matter of explaining to him this deal in Arkansas, explaining to him the process of having agents come through the home. And most of our deals we've ever had hair on, it just comes down to transparency. 1, setting the right expectation, but making sure they understand the expectation you're setting the same way you're explaining it to them. They have to interpret that.
Right.
And you have to be able to funnel that in your brain to filter out, like, is this person actually understanding what I just conveyed to them? That is always a challenge.
Yeah. How did you guys overcome that challenge?
getting really good at training and practicing and making sure the reps were on your calls twice a week.
Yeah.
We've been in your training community now since 2020 when you first rolled out with it. We've consistently been in it. And I always tell our newer reps, like, do you want to be great? Get on here and train. So we would incorporate your training with brewer training, but also our own in-house proprietary training,
Right.
and then getting the feedback and the objections and rebuttals that we faced with sellers to making sure that, all right, let's use this in Wednesday morning's training, Thursday morning's training. Like, for our reps to get better, they need to write down where they're facing difficulty, and that's the answer, right? If we're
That's
facing
it.
challenge,
It's really simple. At its core, that's the best way to get better is, hey, reps, every time you have a problem, write it down.
right?
So we can fix it.
Correct. Help me help you.
Yeah, I mean, it's so mind-numbingly simple, but it feels like no one wants to do that. Yeah,
Laziness.
yeah,
I tell our reps, laziness is a disease. It's a dis-ease.
yeah.
Get comfortable in here with challenge. If you don't embrace this, you will not be here to embrace anything.
Most business owners waste their time and money on solutions that never fix the root problems. They'll address all the symptoms due to slow revenue, and because they're only fixing the consequences, the real problem stays hidden and the cycle of wasting time and money continues. It's like having a lingering headache that won't go away despite trying every over-the-counter medicine. When in reality, you should have just gone to the doctor and had them figure out exactly what was causing the headache. And that's what's so difficult about business. You can see and feel the symptoms and yet struggle to find it. Now imagine you can find a prescription that doesn't just mask the symptoms, but actually addresses the root cause. Where would your business be if you addressed that right now? That's what our sales event is about. Your marketing doesn't suck, your leads aren't bad, and your operations aren't terrible. It's that you haven't addressed what actually makes you money in wholesale, which is the conversations you have with homeowners. It's critical that you build trust with sellers, demonstrate that you fully understand their situation, know exactly what's keeping them up at night, and paint the ideal outcome that leads them to a better future by working with you. That's what it takes to get signed contracts and keep your business going. Simply put, at our event, you'll walk away with the framework, phrases, questions, documents, and process to close more sales and buy more houses. Join the hundreds of others who have come to our live event and dramatically grown their business. Our event is happening soon and is available for you to join only if you're willing to take the pill. Yeah, something you and I have talked about is the need for bite in the reps. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll be straightforward. You gotta be a junkyard dog. You gotta be hungry. You look at like a Rottweiler or a Doberman, you can feed that dog all day long. You'll keep eating.
Yeah.
That is the type of hunger you need. There has to be a bigger, I want to make money. I need to make money. You need to make money to come in here and be successful. And we've had a pretty good amount of attrition in our office. The turnover in our industry is naturally high.
Yeah, very high.
Whether it's from partnership operations, we've seen, whether it's in CG, outside of CG, it's a very, very difficult business to be in. And then having reps come in here to stick around, not go off in 6 to 8 months on their own, or have success in here and actually make money, and then getting them to stick around. We've realized by looking back, right, connecting the dots, looking back is what Steve Jobs would say, is where did we drop the ball and where did we have success? And we've always been able to tie that back to athletes. Bob's a hockey player. I'm a hockey player. We have 4 more former college/professional hockey players on our floor. Those are the guys that have made it.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a little biased towards the hockey player, of course.
I'm hearing
but,
that.
our director of operations played college soccer. Our follow-up specialist played college soccer. I think everybody on our floor except one individual between acquisition and disposition played sports, and he was in the Marines.
Yeah.
So when you find those right people that have the ability, whether it's contact sports, military for discipline, like those are the folks that we've seen the patterns of success. They can handle adversity and achieve success.
Yeah, I think that's for us. One of the things we're looking for is if you play college sports.
Yeah.
Or if you play sports in college, then there's 2 things that we know for sure. A, you're competitive, right? And B, you're willing to sacrifice. You're willing to have some delayed gratification, right? willing to not party as hard, willing to perhaps eat better, drink more water, whatever, things that you don't want to do for a specific outcome. So yeah, we definitely love that. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we started doing, I learned this from Leon, right, our friend Leon Barnes at CG, is that he loves people that work at Enterprise. Because Enterprise spends a lot of effort and resources in recruiting college athletes to work over there. So let's talk about that real quick, right? What else are you seeing as far as the sports component? I mean, I'm thinking hockey, I'm thinking fighters. I'm thinking guys that are always ready to go to blows. Is that accurate, or am I crazy?
I think you're part of you's accurate. Yeah, even the guys that are a little bit on the timid or more reserved side as hockey players in our office, these guys are still ready to get into battle and take it head on. It's just being able to. It's being resilient. Our recruiter, who also played, he was an MLB draft pick. He played AAA baseball. We've trained him on how to go after professional athletes, hockey players, right? Recruiting off of different platforms to contacting individuals, whether it's players, coaches. We're putting a focus on building that A team. It's almost a club. Like, do you want to be in here? Like, this is a club. This is not a, hey, come in here, dip your toe in the water, and maybe it works out. Like, we have it written on our wall, whatever it takes. There's one other word in there that's not appropriate, but that's what's on our wall. And if that mentality is not embraced and exacerbated, then you're in the wrong place. Like, you need to be in constant real estate to be successful. 9 to 5, great, not for you. Right. Good luck having any type of traction and momentum. And we let our guys know, like, you're going to work on the weekends. You're going to call. Well, you're out with your girlfriend at 7 o'clock. Great. That text message came in on that $38K deal. You're taking it. You're going to actually go call the guy. Oh, you don't want to do it? This isn't for you.
Right.
And it really, Steve, a lot of people, it's not for them.
It is not for most people. So there's I got to watch this interview. It was with it was Tom Bilyeu, and it was on Impact Theory. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's a CIA agent. Have you watched this interview?
I have not.
All right. So basically, he talks about the CIA actively recruits people that are traumatized, right? And Phil Green and I have talked about this. You know, salespeople we're broken in some capacity, right? We're damaged goods. So what he talks about is always important. Whether what CIA is looking for is someone that had a traumatic upbringing, because there's always child issues, right? Someone that had a traumatic upbringing, but not so traumatic that they're dependent on external, drugs or medications, whatever, right? So like, you're damaged goods, but you fought through it, you figured it out. And if that's the case, then you qualify for the CIA. Right, because they will throw you out there, and you're gonna be at high alert at all times. Your head's on a swivel, but you have to figure it out if you want to make it home. Kind of look at sales as the same way, right? We want to recruit people that have that hunger because they've got a chip on their shoulder because they got something to prove, right? Whatever it is, they've got that hunger that 95% of our fellow Americans do not have.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in your problems are your greatest power, right? Yeah. Problems create profit. We've heard that before, but your inner struggles are your successes if you exploit them. Grant Cardone's talked about it. And, if we can go through some kind of pain in life and leverage that, then you have a massive advantage. I don't believe at all the kid who comes from a silver platter and a handout and tons of money will ever be successful. They don't know what it's like to have to work for it. You can be on that winning team like the Bruins last year, went to the playoffs, number one. I think they lost, 11, 12 games all season. They were ousted first round by Florida. I mean, they didn't know how to handle adversity when it hit them in the face at the wrong time.
Right.
The battle-tested warrior that can survive the trenches and seen all types of outcomes is the person that's ready, and they're always going to win. So that person that's experienced, whether it's, and I say this too, we've had drug addicts in our office, we've had misfits, students that were failures, people that have had broken homes. Like, those are the people that if we can make sure they're a qualified culture fit and they can come in here and leverage what they went through, they'll be successful.
Yeah.
And that person, and time again, proves the narrative.
Yeah, I totally believe that. And for us, we don't have as many former college athletes, but what we do have are actual fighters. right? Guys that study martial arts,
Nice.
right? Competitive martial arts. So, don't have to worry about whether they can protect themselves or handle themselves, at an appointment. So, you talk about talent of buying over the phone. Talk to me about, what you guys have done as far as having sales talent of buying over the phone.
Practice 10,000 hours. We hear it all the time. You ever read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell? What makes the Beatles successful? What makes Jordan successful? What makes Steve Jobs successful? It's 10,000 hours of that craft and in that one thing.
Yeah.
So how did we get good on the phone? One, constant training, right? We had our in-house training that's proprietary. We've built out, Bob and myself, through Kajabi. Then we have Brewer Method. Then we have your training that we're on. We have several other trainings we're a part of. Wartime, we're now a part of that group. So I believe that we can make connections to everything to utilize for our arsenal. But it all comes through training, right? You're either getting better or you're getting worse every day, right? Are you shooting 300 free throws a day? Are you Larry Bird? Or are you the kid that's like, I'll just shoot at practice? I mean, we're going to crush you. Our guys are on the phone every day. And I tell them, you're going to get better. You're going to love this. This is going to be stimulating. It's going to be like a drug once you get to that level of success. But to getting to that point, we had to fail. Like, you have to try to lock up this contract over the phone and now sell it. And only way you do that is by failing and then learning from that, right? Writing our failings down, but running daily trainings. So I'll run trainings. One of our team leads also runs several trainings a week. And then we're on calls with you. So all of that is integrated into us day in and day out. And then it's only good if we use it. So it has to be applied. If it's applicable, we'll get some results out of it, right? And over time, it slowly compounds. You make 200 calls in a day. People say sales is a numbers game. Yes and no. Make 200 calls in a day. You may not be the best rep, but you have way more at bats than the guy making 40.
Right.
And the guy making 40 might be a 7-year vet. He'll probably beat you. But for you to get to that level, it's just put in those man hours.
Right? You put in the work, put in the reps. So doing this virtually, what are the greatest challenges for you doing this virtually versus doing it in your backyard?
The challenges are you will lose out on some face-to-face appointments. You're going to have some folks that are going to ask you questions outside of your state. Where are you guys located? And there has to be the right frame and answer for that. We have to make sure we're answering that question. That's one, it's appealing to them, but it's creating trust. But it's also most importantly, it's validated. Like, can I look this up and see that what you're telling me over the phone is actually truthful? So we're big on that. And if we can make that connection and align that with everything, then it creates that ability to have the rapport for them to make a decision to work with us. But you're going to run into challenges of losing deals to other investors. There's going to be times where someone just doesn't believe you altogether. They don't think this is legitimate. You called me. I don't think this is real. I looked this up. I don't know how I feel about it. I want you to come out to the property. We'll encourage folks to come to us to save us time now. So we don't go look at homes. Like, well, don't you need to take a look at the home? We'll go through our process and how we're a tech-based home buyer, and we have the ability through our data and analytics to buy the home without having to come out to immediately see it and then going through that process after about the novation of having accessibility to the home. But we will encourage them and say, you're welcome to come to our office anytime. And we'll run appointments with sellers. So now you've seen our office, you've seen us face-to-face, and you've seen the home in which we operate in. So the legitimacy is all there. And if you'd like to speak with anybody at the company, you have that ability. So
you're inviting them to fly into your home, into your hometown?
If they want to fly in, you can get on a plane tomorrow. But we'll have them drive in from Connecticut, the people that have skepticism. If they're in these other states, Florida, Georgia, I'll encourage them. I'll get on a Zoom call with you. Like, what do you want to do? Whatever you want.
What states are you guys in right now?
We are currently in Massachusetts. We're in Connecticut. We're in Pennsylvania. We're in Florida. We've slowed up immensely in Arkansas and Georgia. We're kind of pulling out, and we're looking to get more dialed in. So as the months transpire, we're going to predominantly be in Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and parts of Florida.
Gotcha. Why Florida?
It's a good state. There's a lot of demand down there.
Yeah.
A lot of demand.
It's I think Florida is turning into like the new like Ohio, where like everyone there is successful. Right? It's just like no one's having a hard time in Florida. It seems like everyone I talk to in Florida is like loving life.
If you look at the dynamics too, where's the amount of migration going? People are moving to those affordable panhandle towns. People are moving to those high-end luxury markets. if you can find a great deal, it's going to trade.
Yeah.
I mean, I've moved my brokerage now into 6 different states for this purpose. And Florida is one that we're actively doing the reciprocity work, and I'll have to sit for the state exam. But if you're going to go all in on it, then yeah, you need to go see where you're getting results and, how do we improve? But I think Florida is always going to be a market where there's going to be demand regardless of good economics or bad economics. People want to go live in that sunshine state. And then the other 2 states, one being Connecticut, it's a challenging attorney state with a lot of upside if you get a good deal. And Pennsylvania is it's been a consistent market for us. So,
so you said you're a brokerage in 6 different states.
correct.
Why do you have a brokerage in 6 different states?
We reciprocated to these markets to leverage for doing novations.
Okay, so that you can do novations.
Correct.
Why not join a nationwide brokerage?
Good question. Never looked into it. Never
Yeah.
thought about it. And there's rules and regulations. We also like the ability that if a deal doesn't go as a novation, we'll shift to a listing. We've done that in several
Yeah.
different states, several different times. And, we don't have to go split that with the brokerage. We don't have to abide by their rules or their marketing requirements. Like, we do things on our own. So
Yeah.
that's been good.
Yeah, I'm just curious because we moved everything over the Real, and we weren't even in multiple states. I was just over the headaches of compliance.
Might be something to look into.
Yeah. Now you guys we're talking about the Northeast. The Northeast, they love their attorneys. They love using attorneys. So talk to me about the challenges of doing deals in attorney states, because now that you've been in multiple states, you've been in title states. What are the biggest differences?
It's day and night. When I hear people complaining about tough markets that are in title, I laugh. Like, it's comical. You can come to my market anytime. And I'm not talking about, well, we're in an attorney state. I look at Georgia, it's like, it's really a title state, right? The attorney owns the title company. The title company's handling the predominance of the closing. The attorney is one attorney on the deal. He's more of a facilitator. In Connecticut, there's representation, right? So you have an attorney that is going to kill your deal. Like, they're going to take your
That's their
agreement.
job.
If it's a board agreement, they are going to write their terms in it. It'll get redlined back to our attorney, then they'll redline it, or we'll get on the phone. I mean, we've pitbulled attorneys several times. We're doing one right now, actually, in New York, where we had to go direct at the attorney and just tell him how this worked, because our attorney wasn't really getting through to it. So you almost got to get him into being in a comfortable state of like, this is what we're doing. This is how this works. The seller is on board. Your client, right? Your client wants to do this. Are you going to dictate or facilitate the transaction? So, I mean, you deal with a lot of the nightmares too. We've been detached from it. I always tell our reps, be detached from the outcome. Like, go into that call when they bring up, oh, I want my attorney to review. Like, have fun with it, banter. Great. Will your attorney determine what you eat for dinner tonight? Do you check with your attorney on if you should put 87 or 93 gasoline in your vehicle? Do you call your attorney and ask him what flight you should take on vacation? So why are you calling them about selling your home? Then it's, I got to call my accountant. It's like, oh, are you going to call your dentist too? Have fun with it. If we could banter with them and show them that we're detached from the outcome and almost humanize the situation, like downplay it.
Right.
We can get rapport built simultaneously and then synergize that with the attorney. And also, we'll take some approaches. We'll reach out to the attorneys and we'll have that conversation about what it is we're doing to make sure that before that doc gets there and they try to crush it, they already know what's going on.
Right.
But I mean, there's really no way around it. We've brainstormed countless hours on how to overcome the attorney struggles, and unfortunately, it's just the nature of selling homes in the Northeast.
Are there real estate attorney associations?
I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some type of organization or groups. I know our attorneys that we work with, they've told us they have meetups. So
Maybe we should start one.
yeah,
Right.
attorney mastermind.
Well, it's just a real estate attorney's certification,
Yeah,
right? And then we can all put the friendly ones,
exactly.
right? It's like, oh yeah, make sure your attorney is part of the real estate attorney association for you.
What's the sign up fee for that? Yearly, it's like $997. Just make it 20 grand. Start at
Whatever it is, right? So then we can dictate the attorneys that are looking at it.
Sounds like a great business model.
So that me, you, Billy, when we hang out at CG next week, let's definitely brainstorm that.
Sounds like a plan.
So there's another hockey player, RJ Bates. You ever talk to him?
I have not. I know Bob's been on his podcast.
Yeah. So he and I we were bantering about something, and he was really bitter about this deal he was doing in New York because there were 3 attorneys involved. Right. So do you guys close on everything, or do you guys wholesale? So this is a scenario. In this deal, there was an attorney for the homeowner. There was an attorney for the buyer. And neither attorneys would work with him. So he had to have the attorney to represent him in the assignment. So there were 3 attorneys involved on this transaction. Is that something that happens?
I didn't mention that, but yeah, that's par. That's par for every deal because we have our attorney, the seller has an attorney, and the buyer has an attorney.
There's 3 attorneys. There's not even 2 attorneys in every deal. There's 3 attorneys.
Correct. Our attorney that's collecting our fee represents us,
Right.
referring to the buyer and seller. So the buyer's going to have an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
The seller's going to have an attorney. We're going to have an attorney. There are a few attorneys where they'll claim facilitator where they only just really represent our fee. They don't represent us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll also get that attorney to represent the seller, but there's like a handful of guys that'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
What we do to overcome it is we'll tell the seller, hey, listen, if you use someone from our preferred attorney network, we're going to cover that fee at close, which is anywhere from $850 to $1,100, $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
So in their mind, like, oh, I'll use your attorney, and we'll refer them another attorney we consistently work with.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't represent us. It's just a referral.
Right.
And that attorney usually will understand the navigation of the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have our attorney, so it's smoother, right? There's not as much red tape coming up.
Or there's not as much chest pounding.
Oh, it's such an ego game. These
Yeah.
attorneys love themselves.
Right. So, okay, so 3 attorneys is normal.
Yes.
How much complexity, how much more challenging is it than just buying it yourself and then selling it?
Well, if you're going to buy it yourself, you're still going to deal with the seller's attorney if it's
Right.
not one of your preferred attorneys, and they're going to mark that agreement up.
Are the buyer attorneys easier to work with? Like, is they're difficult as well?
They're all the same. They're all this. It's all attorney driven. So one attorney maybe repping a buyer, and then you've had them before as a selling attorney. It's the attorneys that understand the investment landscape versus the ones that are retail attorneys and have never seen an assignment or an ovation, and they're sitting there looking at it like it's a whole nother language, and it's like you got to try to educate them, and then your attorney talks to them and does it on a professional level. And I've seen it where my reps just jump right into the email chain and go right at them.
Yeah.
They don't like it, but they sure know what's going on after that email.
Yeah. I mean, I think that as much of a pain in the butt as attorneys are, I do envy you guys because you guys don't have as many iBuyers stepping into it because no one wants to deal with those attorneys. So you got a little bit of something to keep those guys out. So we mentioned Collective Genius a couple of times here. So how long have you guys been a member of Collective Genius?
I've been in CG 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob's been in there, I think, 12.
Yeah. So why do you keep going back?
It's the best mastermind in the industry. Anyone can say that. The amount of knowledge and gold nuggets that we've gotten from that group over the years. Every meeting that we go to or event, we come home with value.
Right.
If I look inside of our business today at Purch Rock on how many vendors that we're using inside of CG, I can almost count on both hands.
Mm-hmm.
Might be more than 10.
Yeah.
Whether it's data, analytics, disposition technology, acquisitions training, operations. I can go off the top
Direct
of my
mail.
head. Yeah.
CRMs.
Yeah. You got Sharper. There's Stephanie Betters. You have 80/20. You have Audantic. We have you guys over in sales training. You have Brewer. And then you have the relationships that you can go and reach out to. I mean, I've flown to several offices and been able to see operations that are doing stuff that we desire to get to, and being able to have that person or individual open up. I mean, for example, last January, we got to fly and see the late Oliver's office, which God rest his soul. It was a great individual. I think he's a pioneer in our industry, and being able to see what he had accomplished was just, I'd never seen anything like it. And when you get to go see that, and that person's such a giver, Like that's what makes that group so special.
Yeah.
And seeing guys like Jason and Leon, they're so bought in.
They
Like
are.
you don't have that anywhere else.
Yeah, they genuinely care
Yeah.
about all of their members. So you mentioned the hedge funds. About June of 22, it seems like the hedge funds just came to a complete stop, right? How did that affect your business?
Didn't affect us at all. I'll tell you why. Collective genius.
Mm-hmm.
Being a part of the group, we hear and see things that are going on before it becomes a challenge.
Right.
The best presentation ever, still to this day for me, was when Frank and Eric went on stage in Q1 of 2022 and talked about eyeballs and why every deal that you get should go on the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we were doing novations. We were also selling to funds.
Yeah.
I watched that. I sat in there and I must have got 2.5 pages of notes.
Mm-hmm.
Went back home from the event. I said, we were never selling to another fund again.
Yeah.
We're done.
So you pivoted beforehand.
Correct. We were done. This is when Frank talked about Barbie on the commercials. Like when you start to see Barbie, like the music is coming to an end. And it was such a well thought out presentation because Eric's hitting on great points. Frank's talking about why you should be getting your deals in the market and the potential pitfalls, working with funds. Rates are getting ready to go up. We had already noticed it. I mean, we saw it in 2021. We started doing more deals with funds. The goalpost would move because they're counting our money.
Right.
Like, wait a minute. This is a timed model. This is going to be done. This is a dead end road.
Yeah.
So I went back. I said, every deal's going to the market. And we did. We finished up what deals we had in escrow with our funds and closed.
Yeah.
But we did not continue to sell inventory. Every avenue was to go to the market. And I'll tell you what, we had our best as a business, we had our best year by a landslide.
Yeah. I remember that presentation. You're right. It was a really, really good presentation. And I do remember the Barbie ad for the Super Bowl that he played during the presentation. And then you mentioned IMN. Are you still going IMN?
Yeah, we went last year.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't very good, I'll be honest. Just a lot of the funds are starting to be quiet. You're not really getting the amount of insight and knowledge, and they're keeping their cards close to their chest. We're going to go again this year. Obviously, curious to see what the funds are doing. But again, they go down with their own narrative.
Are you on East Coast or West Coast?
East Coast.
East Coast.
Miami.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm working my way in. I'm going to be trying to be like one of the guys at IMN, so we'll see where that goes.
Nice.
Right. It's different when you pay to be there versus being on stage.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the angle I'm working on. We'll see where that goes. I'll keep you posted on that. And then I can give you what they're saying behind closed scenes if I make it that far. Let's see what else was there. I want to talk about some more about the grinding through tough times. And I know we talked about the perseverance and this and that, but I want to say probably because, with you, definitely, there's a lot of like, cannot hold you down, right? You are going to persevere. You're going to power through. What are some of the major challenges you experienced in your journey getting into real estate and in real estate?
Yeah, I went through a real tough time, which, as you know, we run a podcast called Pucks to Properties. Bob and Tom run that in the office where we have hockey players come on that either played in college, junior, professionally, and then made the transition into real estate. And we all talk about it, and it's very hard. At 21, when I was told I'd never play hockey again with several concussions, I finished up online because I couldn't go to school. I was waking up with excruciating headaches every day, migraines, forgetting where I was parking. I'm 21, and I went down a bad avenue, right? I started smoking weed all day, every day. I was drinking every day. I had spiraled. My coordination, I ended up going to see the same doctor that Sidney Crosby went to back in 2011. And I was fortunate enough to get in with that group and get my life back, right? Learning a lot about how the brain works, what to do to heal your brain from a concussion. And I had went through just, again, a lot of depression. Like I got to the point where I'm questioning a lot of things. Like,
is this because hockey was your future?
It wasn't my future, but I loved it. If you look, there's a lot of guys that'll play pro. Like we just hired a guy, he's 30 years old. He's been playing the last 7 years, making $250 a week. They don't do it for the money. They love the game.
Right.
I loved the game. And when you lose your identity, you need to figure out what that next thing is. So I went through a really bad time, and I believe, and I've wrote articles on it before Real estate's a sport. It's a team sport. Like, you are not going to run far on your own, right? Run fast, run by yourself. Run far, run with a team.
Right.
The only reason we've had so much success and growth through good markets and bad markets is because of the people we have in our room, right? You talk about gritty people. When you have a team of those individuals, it's a very powerful force.
Yeah.
So again, going through bad times for me helped me get to where I am. I needed to find that new identity in my life. I needed to find that new stimulus that was going to be a challenge, but allow me to strive for greatness and achieve the things that I wanted, right? Financial freedom, freedom of time. And then obviously, how do we build around that? How do we grow that team? So for us, it's finding out your identity. You got to go through bad times. You got to really learn who you are. And I think you learn a lot about yourself, not by good times. It's by going through struggles and trials and tribulations, things that are not so welcoming in your life, whether it's emotional, health, physical, relationships. Like, you need to endure that, embrace it.
What about in real estate? What were the toughest times in real estate?
This past year, we went through definitely a challenge. We had scaled to about 42 people in the office, totally with our company, 28 in the office, and then was it another 12, 13 with virtual assistants. So we had a pretty sizable organization. Our former COO and director of sales started a company while they're working here. And we had watched.
A competing company?
Correct.
So without your guys' blessing.
Correct. Started a company. We watched 5 reps all of a sudden working for another company that happened to be theirs. So we had went through a bit of a fall there of rebuilding and restructuring. But it was the greatest thing we went through, right? It created a lot of turmoil internally. We've been fortunate to keep on all the right key players in our office that were successful and grow from that on who do we want to hire, why do we hire them, what to look out for. Before this, I was pretty bullish on giving anyone a chance. Hey, you want to get on the phone and work full commission? Great. Now, we say no to almost everybody. So that was tough.
That was a lesson I learned some time ago. And it was like, yeah, if you want to work, you want to get paid, you want to make money, let's do it. And you realize that not everyone either will do what they say or has the right intentions. So the guy that decided to go off to do his own thing, what have you guys done since to make sure that doesn't happen again?
We do everything under the sun. But to first start out by telling you, do a background check. We didn't realize this person had a rap sheet the size of an arm span. And we had known people in our network that had also had unfortunate dealings with this individual, including one of our reps that went through something. But you got to do background checks. Do a background check. I don't care how good the person is or how great they sound. Do a background check. Know who you're bringing in your office. Look into who they used to work for, right? Use top grading techniques. One things we'll do is like, oh, where did you used to work during an interview? Oh, I worked at XYZ Chevrolet. Oh, great. I think I know. Who's the manager over there? Oh, it's Bill Withers. Oh, great. Provide me Bill's number. I'd like to talk to him about you. Are you cool with doing that?
Right.
And we've had people say no, and immediately you tell me no, I want to know why.
Right.
I want you to be vulnerable. Who are your references? Where did you last work? Is this accurate? Do you have pay stubs? Right? I want to know that what you're telling me is the truth, and we're not letting people in. And we've still to this day, like, we had one other person kind of fall through the cracks with us, and we got him out in 2 weeks, right? Hire fast, fire faster. But yeah, you just need to do your due diligence and be really patient. To bring on those people when you say, hey, this is someone that we want to bring on. All right, let's go through an actual process of vetting them for a week or 2 weeks before we actually accept the position.
What are you using now for background checks?
We use TransUnion.
Simple.
Yeah.
I didn't know they did background checks.
Yeah, it comes, well, my admin does it, but I see the logo, so it pops up, it's TransUnion. I don't know the name of the other platform that they're using. I would check with my recruiter and my admin on it, but I do know TransUnion comes up as one of the tools that's being used.
So one of the things that I like to do, and you just mentioned this earlier, was that I like to give people second chances. So where do you draw the line between background checks and second chances?
It's just a conversation. It's intuitive, right? Talk it over with your leadership team.
Yeah.
We'll do that. If someone's got a bad background where maybe they're a criminal or they had something in their past, people learn from it.
Yeah.
It's just you have to have that conversation with them and see what they say, and then you make a decision.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking this question is that there was a time, probably 10 years ago now, where I looked around. I was like, who are my best? Who are my best people? It wasn't that college athletes. That was not the answer. All my best people were drug dealers in high school and college, right? These were the guys you went to if you needed something. Now, mostly marijuana. Some did other stuff, but it was mostly marijuana. But, you kind of see it like, well, they're pretty good at letting people know what they do. Somewhat extroverted, have an understanding of sales, have an understanding of finances, have an understanding of conflict resolution, right? Collections. They have all these skill sets. They're not afraid to pick up the phone and deal with the challenge. So this is that same line, right? You were talking earlier about healing the brain. I'm fascinated by this. I love human psychology. I love grit and all this stuff. What do you do to heal the brain?
So I went to a practitioner and they do functional neurology. So it's eye movements. They say the eyes are your puppets of your brain, right? So being able to look when your eyes may be jerking or they're moving slow one way and fast in another. They'll use a lot of technology. There's eye goggles of watching the patterns of the brain, and then they'll do different types of head exercise with movements of ocular tracking, looking at, it's dots, targeting. So I did that. I went through all this because I'm a big believer of naturopathic, right? I'm not a fan of putting any type of pharmaceutical in my body or something that's not natural. There's got to be a natural way to healing. And then doing my research on like if Sidney Crosby and Peyton Manning went to this practice, all right, there's value here.
It's qualified.
Correct. So, a lot of this stuff is much higher grade than my level of intelligence to articulate and speak on it. But being able to go there and go through the different types of, body movements, and it's something I can show you offline, but going through all of this has not only improved my brain, but I think has improved my life, right? Where I was prior, what I went through, and how I feel now, I don't think I'd be there at all if I'd went to a regular doctor. And we look at anybody today. You have Cole Taylor in our group, right?
Yeah.
He's a trainer, he's a nutritionist. You have these people in there to get you better. Like we don't have your general doctor as a practitioner. All right, let me take your blood pressure and get on the scale, and you're fine. You're fine. Take a couple pills, and it doesn't work.
And then give you some cholesterol medication.
It doesn't work, right? Imagine taking a pill for real estate. Like there's a side effect to that.
Yeah. There definitely will be a side effect to that. All right, so going back then to the title, I know we kind of touched on this already a little bit, but explicitly, someone's listening. All right, I'm ready to start scaling nationwide, virtually doing novations. It's a bold goal, right? So what are the first 3 to 5 things if someone wanted to go nationwide novations? What are the first few steps they should take?
Commit to it. Pick a market where you can have success.
Yeah.
And have the tools, whether it's a real estate agent to list your deals, a buyer pool of individuals you could sell those deals to if they fall apart, a good title company. I mean, those are really important, but I would say go into a title state, test it out first. Don't go into an attorney state.
Yeah.
I've had people reach out to me like, oh, I'm looking to go into Connecticut. Like, all right, great. I'll give you all the attorney connections you need. Like, you're just not equipped for this. You're telling me that you want to sign up and be a Navy SEAL today. Like, okay, good luck.
Right.
But I would recommend people find a state where there's an ease of struggle and you can have that opportunity to chew onto a deal and have success, right? If you're doing that in your own state where you're doing novations, you have a licensed brokerage, great, you're ahead of the game. Use the brokerage or that relationship and just start practicing in your market. But you're going to need to be hardened because you're going to get a lot of no's on the phone.
Right. Until
you become a better rep. And until then, like, just get really good at being uncomfortable.
You spent countless weeks going back and forth with a homeowner only to lose a deal because the seller changed their mind, another wholesaler made an unreasonable offer, or what the seller needs from the sale, you just can't pay. Now imagine you've got the ultimate control on a property that you just locked up, meaning you're on title and every decision has to go through you, eliminating virtually every external threat. That's why the installment method was created. Through installment payments, you have full control of the property as your name is now on the title. Any decision the seller wants to make now has to be approved by you. No longer can they pull out equity, go with another buyer, or change their mind. Imagine combining the best of creative finance with the flexibility of marketing the property on the MLS to collect the most amount of revenue possible, all while having total control of the property. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The concept here is simple, but implementing is challenging. So visit wholesale2024.com to learn more so that you'll never have another deal blow up. Finding a real estate agent. What do you like to use to find real estate agents?
We just use Zillow, right? Agent Finder, type in the city that you need an agent and start looking at how many deals did they sell last year.
Yeah.
We won't work with an agent that does 30 plus deals a year. They're obviously running a good business. You can find the agent that's doing somewhere between a sweet spot of like 8 to 20, 8 to 22.
Like when someone's on the way up.
Yeah, they'll take you on in a heartbeat.
Right.
You know, and especially they got to work, right? Again, it's, you talk to people like, I work hard. I'm committed. I'm motivated. Okay, great. You know, we'll find out in a week if you answer your phone on Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
See if you're getting us these offers. We'll see if you're going the extra mile. We've had good agents. We've had all right agents, and we've had some agents that just are not good.
Yeah. But there are quality realtors out there.
Yeah, you're going to have to look for them.
What would you do to find a good title company?
Look in your network, right? If you have relationships, go to your network. Google, right? Google title companies in whatever. So let's say you're looking to go do business South Carolina. Google title investment friendly companies or title companies investment friendly South Carolina, and pick up the phone and call them. Like ask them if they do novations. Ask them if they're familiar with it. Ask them if they regularly see it. Like, don't just go, well, hey, you know, my buddy's cousin's friend who got into wholesaling 2.5 years ago says there's this company you can use. And I saw in Bigger Pockets. Like, do the work. Pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Call the title company. Have a conversation.
Screen them.
Correct.
Yeah. And then novations, we're talking about Brewer Method.
Yeah.
Right. So brewermethod.com. There's a lot of, it's funny, you know, prior to 2020, there weren't any novation gurus. There were none.
No.
Eric Brewer comes out with this thing in 2020. I want to say middle of 2020. And then right after, there were like 4 other like novation gurus that somehow have all this experience that we never heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating how that goes.
I think one of them's now doing something totally different than what they had perceived to present themselves as experts, but
yeah,
that's the business, right? Brewer's still crushing it because he's real.
He's real. He actually is doing it, and not only is he doing it, he's doing not only is he doing a high volume of them, but he's also teaching how to do a high volume of them, which is, you know, one of the great blessings I've had. You know, I was gonna say potentially number 4 is, you know, being able to work with you guys, with you and Bob. I still remember, right, because it was 2020. I want to say April and May of 2020, where we launched the sales training for CG members. And like you were on the calls, Bob was on the call. And like I had my sales training that I had already been teaching for some time with non-CG members. Having you guys and your team come on and give me tough objections that I'm not hearing, right? Because what I'm hearing is in Phoenix. And I'm not saying Phoenix is easy, but what I'm hearing is just limited to Phoenix. You guys come in with your attorney challenges, right? Your Northeast attitude challenges. Really helped me create a better sales training platform. So I really appreciate that. And see, so we talked about finding a realtor, title company. Make sure you hook up with Brewer, and then everything else we talked about with getting quality salespeople. We talked about with college athletes and so on. How long you had a recruiter?
We hired our first recruiter in March of 2023. Actually, no, we hired one in January. It was a buddy of mine that I grew up playing hockey with. I thought he'd be great at the role. He had also worked for an AHL hockey team part-time. A month into it, he's like, Adam, I'm just going to be honest, it's not for me. I think you run a great organization. You got something awesome going on here, but this ain't for me. I was like, love you to death, dude. Appreciate your transparency. Let me know I could help you. And he was out. Found a second rep who actually, he was a former Google recruiter. So he got laid off. Came in from our friends over at Sharper. This is through a quarterly review. They just said, hey, we have a recruiter that is looking for a home. I'll send him your way.
Yeah.
So
what are you paying that guy?
we were paying him a salary of $60,000 and then we were paying $2K a placement.
Yeah.
And then we brought on a second recruiter back in August of 2023. So we had 2 recruiters at the time, right? This is like after seeing the operation that Property Force was running on our visit, we're like, well, we could take this thing to the moon. We have the marketing. We had scaled and did it the wrong way. It's like Jason shows that photo of that house at the beginning of CG, right? You know, our home got swiped away.
Yeah.
But it was good. So we had ended up letting go other one who we'd first hired on. Our recruiter now is still with us, is a former professional baseball player. And he just he does a great job. It's been a game changer having an internal recruiter.
Yeah.
And we had actually used Darren Carr to find that individual. So obviously kudos to Darren and his team for making that happen. But,
yeah, that's phenomenal. So what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Freedom. And I had said this when I had sat with Bob when he asked me this question back in 2016, interviewing me to Reeve, why are you doing this? And I said, I want to have the financial ability and the time ability to do whatever I need to do if something ever comes up, whether it's health, whether it's my family. If I need to go fly somewhere to go take care of myself in a pinch, I can do it. And I talk about my experience with concussions, and that really was it. Going through a real bad time with your health, money doesn't matter. I don't care about a cool car. I don't care about your big house. You only care about getting your health back.
All right.
That's all that matters. Money's not going to do it at that point. Like if you're in a bad place, how do you get out of it? You need money, obviously, to go invest in those high quality top practitioners, but you need time.
Right.
And if you don't have the two, because you have this great corporate job that pays you $500,000 a year, but you don't have the time to go do anything with it, well, what good is it?
Right.
So that's my why. And obviously, like, I look at money as like a scoreboard, right? It's a game at the end. It's a sport. You're either getting better or worse. And how do we quantify that when we look at our profit, our revenue every year? What do we do to get better? I'm a pretty simplistic guy, but at the end of the day, like, my why is just, I don't know what I would do if I didn't do this. I'd have to find something to like just keep me focused, right? It's like you stop working, you start dying. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I have that same thing. I think it's an affliction, but I have the same exact thing. The concussions, you said, you had a significant number. I'm just thinking in hockey, how do you get concussions? I know you guys will hit each other at really high speeds, but you guys also have a lot of gear. So like, how does, just kind of talk me through, like, how do you guys get concussions?
Yeah. So whether if it's you're fighting and you hit your head or somebody hits your head in a punch, it's a blow to the head. A lot of mine came from hits. I actually have one on video. I'm breaking out of the zone and the D-man gives me a breakout pass and I'm skating up the center of the ice and I'm looking back to catch the puck. And this D-man is crossing over, reading the play, like textbook. He read it perfectly. He's 6'2", I'm 5'7". Lines me up, cracks me in open ice. My gloves and stick go up. I smoke my head back. You're going one way and they hit you.
It's like a car
your
wreck.
head goes forward, so your brain inside your skull jolts forward, and then it goes back, right, as you're going down. But then when it hits the ground, again, it jolts forward and back. So inside of your head, right, you have your brain, it's getting sloshed all around your skull. Your skull is not protective of that, right? You're going to have some kind of injury. And even though you have a plastic helmet on to protect your skull, it doesn't protect your brain.
Yeah.
And that repetitiveness is where you start to have that trauma.
That was a clean shot?
They threw him out of the game.
They threw him out again.
Yeah, I mean, it was a charging penalty, but if you were to ask me if I thought it was a clean hit, I would tell you yes. Yeah, he lined me up perfectly.
Like within the rules of the game, it was legal, but it was unnecessary.
It was a head-on hit, but I mean, he had taken way more than 3 steps. I mean, he lined me up. He'd read the play perfectly. It was a clear as day charging penalty.
Right.
But in terms of like hitting me head on, yeah, I had my head down, and fortunately it happens in hockey. Catching a pass from behind, and it's I was given a buddy pass actually. Like my D-man set me up pretty good for it, but that's the game.
It's like throwing the ball in the middle of the football field.
Correct.
Like just throwing a jump ball in the middle of the football field.
Yeah, you're
lining
gonna
you
get
up for
crushed.
Ray Lewis to just destroy you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha. Not helpful.
No.
What's your biggest struggle today?
Biggest struggle today, I'd still say it's the people aspect of the business. Anybody will say that is that no one's really figured that out to it. Maybe Phil and Eric.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those guys are absolute rock stars.
Those guys are the next level.
Yeah. After seeing their office last year, I was mind blown.
Mm-hmm.
This is an enterprise level company with enterprise level people. But finding people that are going to stick, that you can create the right culture, the right bonuses, the right structures for them to internally grow. We still have not figured that out. And I think that's a struggle. If you ask anybody in CGs, is recruiting, is hiring, retaining, having those people grow. You look at how many operations it went to. Guys says, I'm doing $5, $6, $7, $8 million a year, and then a year or two later they're in rebuild mode. So yeah, I would say the people component is just constantly something we are needing to get better at. We have not figured that out.
What are you guys working on right now to get better on it?
Reading books, right? We just finished up with top grading, who, not how, working with Sharper. PI has been great for us, and we're still trying to learn on, what are things that we could look for. And then this is a big intricacy and nuanced business. You learn from the little things. I think the devil's in the details, and that's going to come from failing on hiring people that weren't a fit. So many people hire someone and then they don't succeed with it, or the person falls out and they never try something again. For us, it's like, okay, great. We learned this, and this. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And we've had so many people come in and out over the years, 5 years into this, the only way you learn is by failing. Yeah. So for us, it's how do we keep doing this, but then retain? And one thing is, having a recruiter, we say no to a lot of people. You have to do that. You want A people, most of those people aren't A players that are coming in.
Well, it kind of goes back to what you mentioned earlier, right? Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah. Right. The only way to get good at something is to do it a lot. That's it. And so many people give up. And recruiting is not one of those things. It's like, we're trying to buy houses. Just turn on the marketing. Let's have a lot of conversations, right? Recruiting is not something that you can just, all right, let's just turn on the marketing. Let's just have a lot of conversations. No. Right? It's not that simple. So yeah, I am with you on that. And that is something that I think that is always the final frontier, right? Marketing, it changes, but not that much. Sales, something we hang our hat on. Finances, it can be figured out, but God, it's just your brain. It's just not the way the brain's supposed to work. And the people, that's the last component. How do you stay motivated?
Just naturally driven. I'm wired that way. And if you look at my PI, I'm a captain. My A is in the third quadrant. Yeah. My C is past the third quadrant.
Really?
My D comes back. Yeah, my C is off. It's in the writing.
So 3
plus.
Past 3.
3 plus, yeah.
So 3 on the A, 3 plus on the negative on the C. And where's your D?
My D is in the subjective box, but it's almost to the middle. It's not. Yeah. It's not exactly there. It's like, what is that? 2 or 1?
So you're very driving for results.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just I've always had that mentality, right? Yeah. Whatever it takes, put in the work.
Well, I know that about you, so
just blue collar, hard hat, lunch pail. Strongest will survive, last man standing. There's far better operators and smarter individuals than me. It's just kind of figure out what you're good at and align that with the right team. I think we have a really good core of individuals in our office that help. Like Bob has some skills that I don't think I've seen people ever have at his level. And there's things that I will do that he's not going to do. There's things he's going to do I'm not going to do. Our senior sale reps have skills that they've been able to acquire. And I think there's a tall telling story of our PIs in there. We've had the greatest success with the captain profile. And it's that person that has that far wide A and that far wide C.
Yeah, I mean, if there is one profile I would use to hire in most seats, it would be the captain. Yeah, the decision making, the wanting results now, and then the details are good enough. Yeah, right? They're not excellent. They're not awful. It'll do, right? And someone else can clean up the mess. So yeah, I love the captain profile. What's your superpower?
My superpower is resilience. Just keep going. I'm willing to go one more, right? Go one more call, one more rep, one more conversation, one more hour. It's being able to eat the struggles, right? Stay in the fight. I love it. I thrive on it. I think being a mental warrior in this business is far greater. And I'm not a big guy. I'm not a tall guy, but I believe mentally I will get in the battle and I'm going to withstand and stay in there longer than the other person. I'm going to stay in the fight.
Yeah, and I think that is something we see consistently, right? We had Jason Medley on the show years ago, and I remember like, all right, like, what's your superpowers? I will outsuffer you. I believe it.
He talked about on that podcast the book Outwitting Devil. It was a great book. We actually read it after, so I would agree with Jason on that. That is Jason for sure.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic book as well. What's your biggest regret?
Not buying rentals sooner. Not buying more rentals sooner, and not keeping more rentals.
Where are you buying your rentals?
Right now, Jacksonville, Florida.
Gotcha.
I've been buying. I've bought a couple now from our buddy over there, Obie Dorsey. I'm actually buying one from Gonzalo, who was on the show. I buy stuff myself, so we market down there. I've bought stuff off the MLS. It's one of those markets where you can still get good deals because it's such a distressed market.
Yeah.
We had a portfolio between Bob and myself, about 35 doors, and we sold off the end of 2021 to focus solely on our wholesale business, which 10x'd where we were at. Very thankful for it, but I do regret back in 17, 18, 19 when I was just getting into this, when I would go look at a deal, like I'm going to buy a rental, single family is 100, 120 grand in Connecticut. I bought 3 of them and they're all 100 plus K in appreciation. Imagine if I'd bought 20.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing, especially because we went back and forth on, you see some of the big players inside of our group, right? You got Phil, you got Eric, you got New Western, you got some real, Padley. People talk about, can you sell these companies? And I'll be honest, I just don't see it. And you can get fixated, and I could be wrong, and you can eat those words. And I hope I do, because it'd be really cool to see somebody sell
really
one.
Cool.
But if you think about it, we're working a job. If you want to escape this and have that secondary income and something that is truly sustainable and can be traded or sold, it's a portfolio real estate. I think you look at Kava and what he's done is really aspiring, hundreds of Section 8 homes. I even look at Bob. Bob obviously makes great money here in Purch, but having a real virtual assistant company of 1,200 VAs, that's fixed income. That is income that hits every month.
Yeah.
He can walk away from that. I can't walk away from this.
We got Doug right here, right? I don't know if you hung out with Doug at all, but
I'd see him at CG, but I have not seen him here.
So he's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Right. He was doing real estate. He started real estate well before the 2007 crash. So he helped himself to some really healthy homes back then. Which failure did you learn the most from?
Which failure did I learn the most from? In personal life or real estate?
Either.
I can do both. I'd say one is, going through the struggles with concussions and health is don't take your health for granted, right? Put yourself first, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. I go to the gym every morning, right? I'm going to eat, whether I'm running, whether I'm lifting weights. I've put a big focus into my health physically, my nutrition, my mental state. I mean, I work very hard, and I'll drive my brain into overdrive and burn the candle at both ends. When I'm done, I'm done. I'm turning my phone off. I'm not talking to him, going to bed. That's it. I haven't drank in close to 7 months, which is a big game changer. So I would say, one, I wish I did this sooner and took my health serious, because I'd be far more ahead of where I am now in my professional business life, even my relationships, family, if I had put my health first, because you're in a better state.
Yeah.
Business, it's just hiring, right? It's going through what we experienced this past year and learning from that on how to find the right people. And then as you grow, I had a good conversation with another CG member, Bobby Suarez. I got to talk to him a little bit, and he gave me some feedback and insight, which I appreciated his time. And he talked about, do you want to grow a company that's, hundreds of people, this big organization, you're worried about people and constantly having to hire on new department heads, and it's a chaotic orchestration. Do you want that, or do you want something that's tight with a lifestyle business where you're making the same amount of profit, maybe not same revenue, but profit, and it's a quarter of the struggles?
Right.
And that to me hit because it says it in Traction, right? Do you want a $100 million company that's making 10% profit, or do you want a 5 million company making 30% profit?
Yeah.
What's the answer?
Depends.
Well, it depends on the person, correct.
Right.
But I'd say going through, again, all these failings, the beauty of our business is you got to get burned to earn or burned to learn.
Yeah.
Right? You could tell me till you're blue in the face, like, Adam, this is why you don't do this with people. You can't just let anyone in your office. You could tell me you're blue in the face. Until you experience touching that hot stove, then you know what it feels like.
Right.
And that is how you learn.
Yeah. I mean, I want to believe I learn from others' mistakes, but there are mistakes I have to make myself.
Sure.
And Gary Harper talks about this. You know, there's like the 5 different phases, and from phase 1 as solopreneur to phase 2 where everything just sucks to phase 3, now you got a profitable business. To go from phase 3 to phase 5, you got to go through phase 4, which is more sucking.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're not doing this with a deep purpose, don't go to 5. Just stay at 3. But so many of us go to 5 hoping that we can skip 4, but you can't.
It's that foundation. We'll have Gary and Susan in our office next Tuesday for our quarterly. So they're the best.
They're the absolute best. I absolutely love them. Grateful to have them as friends.
Sharper's done so much for our business, and they really know what they're doing, which is great. It's just awesome to obviously have them inside of CG.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had Amanda Dean here about a month and a half ago, right? Because she was coaching our team, and she
did all 3 out of 4 of our quarterlies for 2023. We had her Q2, Q3, and Q4. Some cancellations, but I said, all right, we can't have so and so come, but like, who else would you want? I'm like, Amanda.
Yeah.
She's a rock star.
Yeah, every time we're like, we want Amanda. Like, you should have some varieties. Like, I know, but I want Amanda.
She gets it. She would fit in very well in the Northeast. As a Southerner, she would have no problem on our phone calls.
Yeah, she doesn't have a filter.
No.
Yeah, she's awesome. What book have you gifted more than any other?
So Angela Duckworth, Grit, and then another one would be 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Yeah. I went through that one again, 48 Laws of Power. And I keep quoting law number 4 in our sales training recently. You remember which one that is?
I do not.
Say less. Right? We feel this need to justify. Here's the reason why we do it this way. I can't do this because. We're like, no, just tell them no, you can't do that. And that's it. Now they've got to accept it and then come up with a counter. So
the more you say, the less you sell. The more you justify, the less you validate. I tell our reps all the time that in the office.
Yeah.
Just make your point and move on. Let them negotiate with themselves. But
exactly.
It's a great book, and he's a great author.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to pick up his other books. But yeah, definitely 48 Laws of Power. I went through that a second time recently. So, guys, if you got a lot of value today, please subscribe. Again, don't keep us a secret. A rising tide lifts all boats. We are trying to create as many millionaires as possible. What are some last thoughts you'd like to leave all the listeners with?
Get into this business if you're interested. Hit it full steam ahead. 2 feet deep end of the pool, right? You're going to dip your toe in, like, don't even try it. Just stay at home. Don't go to the seminar. Don't watch the YouTube video. Like, take action and execute on it, and just be willing to do whatever it takes, and you'll be successful. It's so funny because the barrier entry is limitless in this business. Like, anyone can get into this. I think I'm living proof.
Right.
You look in my office, we're a bunch of misfits, but we have success because of the resilience, the tenacity, the fortitude, the grit, those soft skills that can't be taught but acquired, that get exploited, are the ones that win. So for the people out there that want to get into this and like, where do I start? Like, figure out what it is you desire and work back mentally on where that starting point is, and go out and do it. Well, where do I go to do it? Just start taking action. Yeah, it's going to be a mess. You're trying to go cook a cake and you don't have all the ingredients. Eventually you'll get them. Just figure it out.
Right. Yeah, there was it's like Art Williams, I want to say. Can't remember say for sure, but it was an insurance agent. And he had this whole speech, which was do it. But what do I do about just do it? But just do it. And that was his whole speech was just do it. Right? Because the answers will reveal themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you got to learn. Our success has just came from failings for everything, from acquisition to disposition to asset types to buy to what market to what sub market. I mean, everything has came from taking an L. The more losses, right, failing forward, the more losses we can get, the better we'll be. I'm always a big glass half full kind of person. Very thankful for every freaking loss, right? I wouldn't be here today if I didn't ask Bob a chance for 50% of his business. And I talk about it all the time. Great teammate. I mean, phenomenal leader. If we didn't have what we have today, the partnership, the same vision, that hockey background, like we'd never have this. It's just not here. But that's the power of people and team.
Yeah.
So when you find that and you bring your skill set, exploit it. Go be great. Be who you are. Who cares about the noise? Focus on what you want. Be you. And everything comes in over time, right? It's a long game.
Oh, I love it. I love it. There was a great message. I remember it was something along the lines of like, Master, why is it that, I can't do what you do? And his answer was, because I have failed more than you have tried. Right? I've eaten way more crap sandwiches than you've even gone out to even attempt.
Facts.
Right.
I couldn't agree more. Look in CG, right? The guys that have been there the longest, the individuals, the most amount of doors, most amount of wholesale deals, volume. They've been in the game the longest. There's something that comes from compounding, right? It's the eighth wonder of the world. Warren Buffett talks about it. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't loses it, right? You had Leon Johnson on this podcast, and still one of my favorite shows back when I want to buy all these single family homes. He compounded. He stuck to the game, becomes boring, and he gets that success through consistency. But how many times do you think that guy failed across the course of 40 years? The guy's been failing longer than you've been alive.
Right.
Get ready to get hit, kid.
Exactly right. Perfect. Someone wants to get a hold of you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Could reach out to me via email, adam@purchrock.com. Could reach out to me on Instagram @theadamdevine, Facebook. So if you ever have any questions or want to chat, if you're selling deals in Jacksonville, Florida, I'm your buyer for rentals. So send them my way. But I'm always happy to give a hand or help out somebody else questions with virtual novations or anything business related. I'm a big believer of giving.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks, Steve.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Shout out to Steve Trang. Jump on the Steve Trang. We real estate disruptors.